hiking, picnicking, gardening. No matter what you're doing outside this summer, you're not alone. Those summertime dangers are all around. As an avid horseback rider, Greg Kuhl spends a majority of his summer outdoors, so he's keenly aware of his surroundings.
When you're horseback riding, there's a lot of dangers. Snakes, the horse can trip, and then there's stuff like poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac.
For Greg, the problem arose when he brought the outdoors indoors.
The thing that I didn't factor in was the poison ivy oil actually on my clothing.
Even though Greg washed up thoroughly after his time on the trail, the oil from the plant remained on his boots and transferred to his hands and arms. Unfortunately, he didn't recognize the problem as poison ivy right away.
Because I waited probably too long to get treatment, the lesions from the poison ivy allowed bacteria in. I got my legs infected, actually got cellulitis in both legs, and swelled up from the knees down.
The oil from the plant, called urushiol, is pretty nasty stuff. It can end up just about anywhere.
It's a resin, so you can get it off of a pet. If you're burning stuff, the smoke will carry the resin and it'll attach to you, and you can get poison ivy from that too.
Poison plants are one thing, but pesky pests are another. Mosquitoes, which can carry the West Nile virus, pose a big problem here in the Mid-South. And of course, so do spiders.
I had a spider bite. I noticed it the day after, and then a couple days after realized that it was not a mosquito bite, it was probably something else.
Fortunately for Greg and Julie, they got the treatment they needed. And even though they always try to stay safe outdoors, their experiences have made them even more cautious. Now, you can't prevent every summertime problem, but following a few simple steps can save you the trouble of a trip to the Minor Med. To ward off mosquitoes, make sure to use insect repellent containing DEET. Keep in mind, parents, the American Academy of Pediatrics does not recommend the repellents to be used on children under 2 months of age, and that you should read all the directions carefully before applying repellent to your kids. Other helpful hints? You might want to avoid spending time outdoors between dusk and dawn, the peak mosquito biting times. And you can help prevent mosquitoes from laying eggs near your home by draining any standing water around the property. As far as spiders go, well, they're pretty sneaky.
If you go in your attic or a wood pile, or they like wooded areas, they like dark areas. Clothing that you haven't worn for a while, you're supposed to shake it out and make sure there's no spiders in it.
And if you've got the itch to go somewhere you suspect has poison ivy, you'd better make your first stop the pharmacy.
There's a retail product called Ivy Block, and you put that on before you go. And then learn to recognize what the plant looks like. It's a green leaf, but it's in clusters of 3, and they have 5 sort of serrated edges.
Dr. Lee also says that for most summertime dangers, one of the best ways to protect yourself is to cover up.
As far as clothing goes, you would want to wear some shoes that are going to protect your feet, and shirt sleeves and pants and gloves.
And it never hurts to stock up on first aid supplies.
I have calamine lotion, I have alcohol, any type of ointment you can imagine. I have it in my drawers just to make sure.
But the best thing with which to arm yourself is common sense. Keep a close eye on yourself, your family, and your surroundings, and you'll be sure to have fun in the sun. For Smart Medicine, I'm Rod Starnes.
Joining me now is Dr. Stanley Thompson, Emergency Room Medical Director for Baptist Memorial Hospital DeSoto. Dr. Thompson, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Now, you can go to a minor medical when it's something minor, obviously. When do you go to the emergency room?
Well, for a more serious problem, of course. For probably a sprained ankle or a small cut or things of that nature, minor med is always appropriate. But for more serious summertime injury, you probably do need to come to the emergency department. For example, if there's any question of whether the bone is fractured or broken or not, or heat-related illnesses such as heat exhaustion or fainting in the heat, those things you probably need to seek an emergency department.
What are some of the high-risk groups that need more precautions?
Well, heat affects extremes of age. The really young and the elderly should be more cautious when it's really hot outside.
What about people with allergies? Or say you're allergic to a bee sting or something like that.
You have to take those precautions. Most people with severe allergies carry what's called an EpiPen in case they do have an allergic reaction. They should make sure that they have those tools necessary when they're out in the heat.
Say you have to be outside in the heat. You have to be out during the summer. You work outside or whatever. What precautions should you be taking?
Well, most important, water, water, and more water. You're going to sweat. You're out in the heat. You're losing fluids. You're more prone to heat injury if you don't replace those fluids. So you need to be drinking water.
And I'm assuming that when you say replace those liquids, you're not talking about replace them with alcohol.
Oh, no.
Just water.
No, just water. Alcohol and summer activities just don't belong together.
Dr. Thompson, thanks so much for joining us. To learn more